Let's talk about how pain management practices specifically can drive more patients. So I want to start off by talking about some of the unique marketing challenges that pain management practices have. So we've been working with a lot of pain management practices over the years, and we've learned some of the specific challenges that pain management practices have. So one of the biggest challenges we see in digital marketing that pain management practices have is figuring out which services, conditions, treatments to focus on. So we think about all of our digital marketing for medical practices, but pain management practices too, in terms of conditions and treatments. So an example of this, right, would be if you're a pain management practice, maybe you're going after neuropathy, or you're going after spine conditions specifically, and you've got lots of different services that you can offer. Many pain management practices offer a pretty wide variety of services. You need to figure out as a practice, what are those key services that you want to focus on? And that might be services that drive more revenue for your practice, or it might be services that you're just really good at providing, and or that are your strong suit, right? So understanding those services is really key, because as a pain management practice, you cannot market every single one of them. You have to pick the ones that you want to put advertising dollars behind, or put time and energy behind creating content or talking about in social, right? So that prioritization is one of the most important steps for a pain management practice to understand as they start marketing. The second thing that we run into quite often is issues with patients really understanding what you provide. And this is related to the number of services that a lot of pain management practices offer. You know, if you're offering injections and chiropractic services and other kinds of treatments, rehabilitation, physical therapy, whatever, it can sometimes become a little bit difficult for patients to really understand what you do. And they may not be used to interacting with a medical practice like that has some pretty broad options to treat their pain. And this leads us to really the third challenge, which is pain management practices often have a little bit of difficulty because of that previous challenge, turning consultations into treatments. So it's very common for pain management practices to offer some sort of free consultation, right? Or maybe a low cost sort of cash pay visit or something like that for that first visit. And if it's not really clear to the patient what the total kind of value proposition for the practice is, sometimes you may get a number of appointments, but you may not have a very good show rate for your appointments if people don't quite understand exactly what it is they're getting. And then the fourth challenge and final challenge that we see for pain management practices specifically is really related to marketing restrictions. So for some of the services that pain management practices provide, as an example, if you provide PRP or stem cells or things like that, those kinds of services, even just having the words on your site, can keep you from leveraging some digital marketing channels, right? You can't run Google ads if you have any of that on your site, as an example. So those are some very unique challenges for pain management practices, but I really want to shift gears and talk about 9 kind of fundamental digital marketing strategies for a pain management practice to grow. And I'm going to go through each of these individually and just talk about how we view them specifically from the lens of pain management. So the first is your website. Website is really, really key. I think it's an opportunity to address some of the challenges we talked about before, making your value proposition very clear in terms of what you do. But really, the website is still your foundation for all of your digital marketing. It needs to be fast. It needs to instill trust with the potential patient, and it needs to be really good at capturing potential leads, right? So getting request appointment items filled out, as well as providing any kind of education that you have. So your site is still really key, and it needs to be done really well. The second strategy is having a HIPAA compliant CRM. So this is something we talk about a lot at Runner. Many medical practices, including pain management practices, don't have any kind of CRM in place. So appointment requests are coming through. They're just getting emailed to somebody at a front desk. That's not HIPAA compliant. So you really need a CRM system that will store those requests and allow you to follow sort of potential patients as they go through that process of your front desk reaching out to them, collecting insurance, all those kinds of things. So the CRM is important for marketing tracking, and it's important that it be HIPAA compliant, which is why we offer a HIPAA compliant CRM. The third strategy is SEO. And SEO is extremely important for any practice. That's partly because, it's an opportunity to attract traffic without having to pay for every single click. And the majority of SEO for any practice is going to happen through the website. So how well your website is built to be SEO friendly. But it also happens through a few other areas. So the fourth strategy, which is really related to SEO, and one of the more important things that any pain management practice can do from a marketing perspective, is having really good both practice and physician listings. So by that, we mean your Google business profile listing for your practice, as well as physicians. So this is important to have those profiles built out really well. They need to be claimed. They need to be built out really well. And you need to have really good reviews. These are used extensively by patients as they're evaluating your practice and figuring out whether they want to request an appointment or not. So those local listings are really key. And number 5, content marketing is also really key. So this is what we might more traditionally think about when we think about SEO, creating blog posts, let's say, on your site that focused around very specific keywords that you're trying to go after and rank well on Google for. Content marketing is extremely important for patient education. So building that trust, as well as getting patients to trust you enough to request an appointment. However, the traditional SEO approach of just creating content that's not locally targeted doesn't necessarily get you more patients in the door. In other words, it's not like your paid media. You could rank really well for epidural injections, but if 95% of the traffic you're getting is outside of the state, those people are never going to come see you as a patient. So it's important, in addition to those local listings, to have a good content strategy that both educates patients as well as you creating some more locally relevant content. The next strategy, number 6, is paid advertising. And paid advertising is really key if you want to scale the amount of potential patients that you're reaching and drive more office visits. So depending on the services that you focus on, there's a different cost for reaching some of those services, but paid advertising is really the key to not being reliant on physician referrals and driving more self-referrals for your practice. And if you invest enough and you have a well-optimized campaign, you can start to see some really great returns on that. The 7th strategy is social media. So outside of Facebook ads or other kind of social ads, having a good social strategy in place is important. just like having your local listings is important, right? You want to claim those social profiles and distribute a lot of the content that you publish across those social profiles. Now, there's both paid social and organic, which is just not paid. You're not putting paid advertising behind it. Both can be really successful. We recommend doing both just because the organic, again, helps you build your reputation, but the paid social is really allowing you to target and identify the potential patients that you want to grow. Strategy number 8 is email marketing. Email marketing is extremely important, not only in terms of doing things like making sure that you have a good show rate for appointments that are booked, or communicating with leads, potential new patient leads, but it's also important for doing campaigns. And by that, I mean, if you have patients that you already have connected with, maybe they've already come in for a consultation or treatment, and you want to continue to maintain that relationship, email is really essential. But we've also, for the final strategy, number 9, text messaging we found is also an extremely important strategy. And that's because with text messaging, when you send a text message, it gets read almost 100% of the time. Emails can sometimes fall through the cracks. People may not open them as frequently, but with text messaging, you're pretty much guaranteed that everybody's going to see that message. And in fact, we found a number of potential patients actually prefer to interact with the practice through text messaging. And they'll even, schedule entire appointments just through text. So those are really the 9 kind of foundational strategies that will help you grow your pain management practice. I do think it's important, if you really want to grow your practice and you want to execute across all of these strategies or a number of them, you really need to work with some sort of a marketing expert that's going to understand these platforms. A team, right, of experts that's going to understand best practices across all these platforms. So we've worked with many pain management practices over the years. If you're interested in exploring what it would be like to have a relationship with Runner and for us to help you grow your pain management practice, visit runneragency.com. Take a look at some of our work and case studies from other pain management practices, and reach out on the site, request a consultation to speak with the Runner marketing expert.